We all know the rule. If you leave eggs out for too long, you're asking for problems. Most of us cannot fathom eggs staying longer than a week or two without refrigeration. What about the Amish? They've discovered out how to make eggs last longer than your refrigerator's warranty without using energy. It's fascinating how they've maintained these traditions while the rest of us rely solely on contemporary technology. For decades, they've perfected the skill of keeping eggs fresh for years. Yes, you heard that correctly, years. The point is that they don't need anything expensive or high-tech to pull it out. This is when things become extremely fascinating. You might expect that keeping eggs for 10 years would necessitate some kind of futuristic device. But one of the Amish's most reliable ways is as simple as it gets. Lime water. Yes, lime. The kind you'd squeeze into a delightful beverage. But don't get any ideas, we're not mixing cocktails here. This technique is a centuries-old game changer. And guess what? It works like magic. Lime water is just the solution formed by dissolving calcium hydroxide in water. If that seems technical, it is not. Calcium hydroxide, often known as slaked lime, has long been used for a variety of purposes, including construction and food preservation. So how does it relate to eggs? Here's the brilliant part. The Amish soak their eggs in this lime water mixture, and the magic, or more precisely, science, happens. Eggs are coated in microscopic pores that allow air and germs to enter, causing them to deteriorate over time. However, when eggs are submerged in lime water, the solution forms an airtight seal over the pores. No oxygen, no bacteria, and your eggs can suddenly last for months, if not years. It's like providing the eggs a protective armor that germs can't get through. Here's an interesting historical twist. Lime water preservation was not pioneered by the Amish. This practice stretches back to medieval times, long before freezers were even invented. People had to get imaginative back then to ensure that their food lasted through the severe winter. The Amish did more than just embrace the system. They polished it in ways that most of us have forgotten. It's astounding to imagine that something so simple as lime water can outperform sophisticated refrigeration. While most of us stress at the prospect of a fridge malfunction, the Amish use a solution that does not even require electricity. In fact, it could outlast your fridge and require fewer maintenance. What is truly astounding is the scale at which they accomplish this. We aren't talking about storing a dozen eggs here and there. Amish families may freeze thousands of eggs in a single year to ensure a consistent supply regardless of the season. It's a degree of preparedness that is difficult to comprehend until you've witnessed it yourself. I can barely manage the dozen eggs I buy every week. But what about the Amish? They have it all figured out. And lime water isn't the only innovative strategy they employ. Oiling is another method they use to preserve eggs. Yes, you read that correctly. Oiling. It may appear that they are preparing eggs for a spa day, but it is actually a great preservation technique utilizing mineral oil. Here's how it works. As previously discussed, eggshells feature microscopic openings that allow air and bacteria to enter. Over time, this is what causes eggs to deteriorate. The Amish completely seal the shell's pores with mineral oil, forming a barrier that keeps oxygen and bacteria out. It's like enclosing the egg in a protective bubble. If this sounds weird, you're not alone. Most people wouldn't think to do it. But the outcomes are remarkable. Mineral oil is inexpensive, easy to get, and extremely effective. In fact, modern homesteaders are rediscovering this practice, enticed to the thought of eggs that can survive longer than the milk in their fridge. I tried this procedure once, just out of curiosity. I took a bottle of mineral oil from the pharmacy's skincare section, yes, really, and covered some eggs. It seemed a little odd, like I was preparing them for deep frying. However, weeks later, those eggs remained fresh, as if they had just arrived from the shop. Who knew a little oil could do such wonders? Interestingly, the concept of sealing food to preserve it is not new. People would wrap cheese or even meat in fat centuries ago to extend its shelf life. The concept remains the same. Keep air out to prevent deterioration. While we've mostly moved on to plastic wrap and vacuum sealers, the Amish demonstrate that the simplest solutions are frequently the most successful. Oiling is fantastic because it is so simple. You don't need any specialized equipment or complicated instructions. A bottle of mineral oil will keep your eggs fresh for months, or even longer if you're feeling experimental. Finally, if this type of preservation interests you, we recommend a book by Claude Davis, a seasoned prepper who reveals 126 superfoods and preservation techniques from crisis periods such as the Great Depression. These tactics, similar to those used by the Amish, could be the key to preserving heritage and survival skills. Passing down superfood secrets and preservation strategies to future generations is more vital than ever. Imagine our children or grandchildren losing this knowledge of very nourishing meals and survival practices. It would be a shame if these valued customs disappeared. That is why works like Claude Davis's Guide to Superfoods and Crisis-Era Preservation Methods, as well as Nicole Apollon's book on herbal medicines, are essential reading. If you're seeing this on TV, you may find these books by following the links in our channel description or any video description on our channel, Finest Mind. Now let's look at the next unique egg preservation method in the Amish playbook. This is a surprise: vinegar. Yes, that harsh, sour liquid you would spread over fries or toss into a salad actually plays an important role in helping the Amish preserve eggs over time. And believe me, this method is far more remarkable than spicing up potato chips. This is how it works. Eggs are given a short vinegar wash. The acidic acidity of vinegar works its magic, destroying microorganisms and forming a protective layer on the shell. Consider it an armor upgrade. No swords or shields needed, just a simple bottle of vinegar. Once treated, the eggs will stay considerably longer than those in your refrigerator. I used to believe vinegar was only for cooking or some tough cleaning tasks. Who knew it possessed preservation abilities? Apparently, this method has been around forever. During their long marches, Roman troops kept their food fresh using vinegar. Imagine those warriors employing the same tactics as the Amish do centuries later. Isn't it kind of wild? Although I'm glad I don't have to march with a pack of vinegar-soaked eggs. Something tells me that wasn't the most glamorous period in history. But here's the kicker. Vinegar isn't only for eggs. It's one of those ancient kitchen hacks that folks have used for a variety of preservation purposes. Vinegar has a long list of uses, including pickling vegetables and keeping meat fresh. And while it may seem suspicious to trust food steeped in vinegar, the Amish, and evidently the Romans, know better. If it worked for them, you can be confident that it will work for your eggs as well. I haven't tried the vinegar method yet, but I am tempted. The idea of having a stockpile of vinegar-treated eggs that smell acidic but keep fresh for months is curiously tempting. Who wouldn't want that kind of backup when you can't go to the store, or when something more catastrophic occurs, such as a power outage? Furthermore, there's something deeply fulfilling about using a simple, natural chemical to beat time at its own game. If vinegar could talk, it would most likely boast a long list of accomplishments, including cleaning agent, salad dressing, and egg preservation. Who knew? And if you've ever been hesitant to use vinegar outside of the kitchen, now is your opportunity. It's versatile, inexpensive, and surprisingly effective at preventing eggs from rotting. Let's look at why eggs go rotten in the first place. You know that dreaded moment when you crack open an egg and are confronted with an unpleasant odor? This occurs due to three factors: bacteria, air, and moisture. Eggs are marvels of natural design, but they have flaws. Bacteria can enter through small gaps in the shell, moisture can provide an ideal breeding ground for mold, and air causes oxidation, which is bad for freshness. This is where Amish egg preservation techniques excel. Lime water plugs the pores, keeping bacteria out. Oiling forms an airtight barrier that keeps out air and moisture. What about the vinegar dip? It removes bacteria before they have a chance to party inside the egg. These aren't just random tactics. They're actual solutions to challenges most of us had no idea existed. Prior to discovering all of this, I believed my refrigerator was the ultimate egg hero. Turns out it's more of an overhyped sidekick. Refrigeration delays rotting, but does not prevent it. Here's an interesting fact. Those eggs you buy in the grocery store, they've previously been washed and processed, removing the natural protective layer. That means they're vulnerable from the beginning. By the time you get them home, they've already started counting down the days until their expiration date. Surprise, those slick grocery store displays have been deceiving us all along. And here's the twist. Eggs don't require refrigeration, at least not in the way we're used to. In Europe, for example, eggs are not kept chilled in stores. They are stored on counters or in pantries due to restrictions that do not require them to be cleaned. That natural layer remains intact and serves as a built-in barrier. However, in the United States and elsewhere, eggs are washed, removing their natural protection. That is why we have become so dependent on refrigeration. Meanwhile, the Amish are as cool as cucumbers, laying their eggs out for months or even years with no problem. It's a dramatic contrast to how most of us try to squeeze everything into our overflowing refrigerators. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating you leave your store-bought eggs out on the counter. Those that have gone through the industrial process will undoubtedly require refrigeration. However, it's intriguing to observe how the Amish, and even individuals from other regions of the world, handle eggs in such a unique and arguably more practical manner. Isn't it amazing how much of what we consider necessary is actually a modern invention? The Amish are here to remind us that with a little know-how and some basic ingredients like lime or oil, we can keep eggs fresh for years, no fridge required. It's a simple yet smart approach that calls into question everything we think we know about food preservation. When it comes to storing eggs for years, the Amish don't merely put them into lime water or coat them in oil. Oh no, they're far pickier than that. It's almost as if these eggs compete in a beauty pageant before being deemed suitable for preservation. And believe me, the examination is more intense than in some job interviews. First and foremost, freshness cannot be compromised. The Amish will not bother keeping eggs that are many days old. They have a keen eye and occasionally a keener nose for detecting an egg that is past its prime. It's like going to the grocery store and squeezing every avocado to find the best one, except with eggs. Every egg is carefully inspected. Has it passed the freshness test? Looks excellent. Does it feel right? You are in, they might think to themselves. Next up is the crack test, but not the sort you envision. The Amish are experts at detecting hairline cracks, those subtle defects you'd miss if you weren't paying close attention. Eggs with even the smallest cracks are instantly excluded because they allow bacteria to enter. It's similar to inspecting apples in a store. You know how you inspect each item for bruises before placing it in your cart? It's like that, but much more serious. After all, if you're going to store an egg for 10 years, it should be immaculate. A typical Amish family may save thousands of eggs every year. Yes, thousands. Given the size of their families and the amount of baking and cooking they perform, those eggs are critical. Imagine opening open eggs for pancakes and discovering they were preserved when your now teenager was only learning to walk. If there were an Amish Guinness World Record for egg preservation, they'd win hands down. So why put in all this effort to handpick beautiful eggs? When you're storing something for years, not just days or weeks, you should start with the best. A lousy egg won't only ruin a dozen. When you crack it open a decade later, you'll seriously reconsider your life choices. Nobody wants that kind of regret, especially the Amish, who value doing things perfectly. And it does not end there. The Amish check their preserved eggs on a regular basis throughout the months or years they are stored. Any hint of a rotten egg means it's out. I suppose their motto could be, "No bad eggs left behind." Okay, so that's just my interpretation, but you get the point. Another Amish preservation technique may appear even simpler: dry storage. No sophisticated processes or complicated recipes, just cool, dry spaces where eggs may relax like they're on vacation. You might even call it a time capsule for eggs, but without the stress of determining what else to put in the box. This strategy makes use of the natural surroundings. Many Amish households include areas designated particularly for food preservation. These places are frequently cooler and slightly more humid than a typical kitchen, providing ideal conditions for storing eggs for a year, or even two. It's similar to finding that forgotten cupboard corner. But instead of old canned beans, you find eggs that are as good as new. A hidden treasure, but the reward is breakfast. You may be asking how this works without any additional treatment. Eggs have their own natural protective shields. The shells are intended to keep the nasty stuff out, as long as you don't fracture them too quickly. The Amish allow the eggs to do their thing by simply storing them in a cool, dry place. No stress, no pressure, just waiting for the right moment to shine in a dish. It's incredible how this strategy emphasizes how much we take modern comforts for granted. Most of us stress if leftovers sit out for too long, so we put everything into the fridge without thinking twice. But how often do we forget about the container of pasta in the back? Or worst, find an ancient carton of eggs that may be used as a historical exhibit. The Amish prevent these tragedies by relying on basic procedures and natural processes, minimizing waste and avoiding mold or strange odors. In an Amish household, eggs are used for more than just breakfast. They're vital for baking, thus their longevity is even more important. Imagine making cookies using eggs that have been preserved for years. That is a testament to their skill. And the best part? Properly preserved eggs can taste better than anything you'd get at the grocery store. Dry storage also connects the Amish to their land and customs. They know what works and stick with it. There's no need for expensive devices or contemporary equipment. Just patience, faith in nature, and a genuine appreciation for the resources they have. It's a refreshing perspective that we might all benefit from, especially in a society where we frequently ignore the beauty of simplicity in our hectic lives. Now let us address the major question. Are these preserved eggs safe to eat? Admit it, you'd be doubtful too. Cracking up an egg that has been laying around for years sounds dangerous, right? It's a legitimate concern, especially if you've ever cracked an egg only to be assaulted by a fragrance that might fill the entire room. But don't worry. The Amish have been practicing this process for years, and they know a thing or two about keeping their food safe. The key to preserving eggs is proper treatment and storage. When used appropriately, these approaches not only preserve the eggs fresh, but also decrease the possibility of unwanted shocks. The Amish rely on tried and true techniques such as lime water soaking, oiling, and dry storage. Imagine having a stash of eggs ready for a baking marathon, and your only concern is whether you have enough chocolate chips. Here's a startling fact. Carefully keeping eggs can improve their safety. Fresh eggs include a natural protective covering that inhibits bacterial growth. Once the covering is removed, the clock begins to tick. However, using preservation methods, the eggs keep that barrier, typically outlasting anything purchased from a food store. Fun fact, the gleaming, precisely packed eggs in your local shop are probably a few weeks old before they hit the shelves. I'll give a quick story. My friend has never tried a preserved egg before. She was doubtful, wrinkling her nose as she opened it open. But guess what? It was totally fine. No strange scents or textures, just a good, wholesome egg. She's now a total convert and has even begun freezing her own eggs. Isn't it interesting how perspectives shift when you have firsthand experience with something? In terms of experiences, folks who have used preserved eggs for years have told us how fresh and delicious they are even after being stored for so long. Some have even used them in baking competitions, believing in their excellence. And the best part? There were no doctor's visits. If that isn't proof enough, I'm not sure what is. Obviously, this is not a free-for-all. To safeguard their safety, the Amish follow a few simple but vital guidelines. First, only fresh eggs are maintained, with no cracks or imperfections. Each egg is scrutinized with the same care as a priceless treasure. Before eating, they always use the usual water test. If the egg floats, it's not good. If it sinks, it's okay to go. Simple, efficient, and foolproof. Now that we've covered safety, let's move on to the fun part. Learning how to preserve eggs and join the ranks of egg-preserving lovers. No secret Amish organization password is required. Just a little determination and some basic supplies. Start with fresh, unwashed eggs, preferably from a local farm. Eggs from free-range chickens are even better because they are generally higher quality. Fresh eggs retain their natural protective coating, which is essential for optimal preservation. Don't forget to inspect them. No cracks or flaws allowed. Once you've collected your eggs, select a preservation method. Let's begin with the lime water approach. It's as simple as mixing 1 ounce of food-grade lime, calcium hydroxide, with a quart of water until dissolved. Then gently set the eggs in a container and pour the lime water mixture over them, making sure they are well soaked. Consider treating your eggs to a spa day. Feeling adventurous? Consider oiling your eggs. Grab some mineral oil, which is readily available at most drugstores and online. Apply a small amount of oil to a paper towel and rub it over each egg. This procedure keeps air and bacteria out, providing your eggs an extra layer of protection. Or maybe vinegar is more your thing. Dip the eggs in equal parts vinegar and water for a fast coating. Minimal effort, great impact. It's similar to pickling, but for eggs. After treating your eggs, the following step is to store them. Find a cool, dark, dry place, such as a basement, pantry, or cool cabinet. Food preservation areas are common in Amish households, although they do not have to be fancy. The idea is to keep the eggs at a constant temperature and away from sunlight. And if you're feeling particularly creative, why not try a variety of methods? Store some eggs in lime water, oil others, and dip some in vinegar. It's like having your own egg preservation laboratory. Not only will you discover what works best, but you'll also impress your pals with your culinary experiments. Here's a fun idea. Keep an egg journal. Record which methods you used, how long the eggs lasted, and your favorite egg recipes. You'll soon improve your talents and perhaps even inspire others to try it. Before you know it, you'll be the egg expert in your group. Consider this scenario. Friends gathered around, amazed as you reveal your stockpile of preserved eggs, telling stories about their journey from storage to pan. It's all about preserving traditions and spreading the joy of simple ecological life. And who knows, someday you might find yourself at a baking competition, confidently proclaiming, "These eggs, they're 10 years old. Want a taste?" Just remember to trust your instincts, follow the guidelines, and have fun experimenting. With a little patience and imagination, you'll be able to perfect egg preservation. With a dash of tenacity, you'll be on your way to becoming the egg-preserving elite. Do you find it stressful to check for expired milk? Try cracking open a 10-year-old egg. It's a whole other level of excitement. But don't worry, the Amish have devised simple procedures to ensure that those long-preserved eggs don't cause a morning disaster. Spoiler alert, it all boils down to a simple water test. Let's discuss why testing an aged egg is so crucial. The prospect of eating an egg that has been sitting for over a decade may sound like a food safety horror story, but it does not have to be. The idea is to trust your instincts, and the water test is your ultimate ally. Here's how it works. Take a bowl of clean water, preferably not the one you just used to soak your dirty dishes, because that's a whole other level of icky. Carefully place the egg in the water. Congratulations if it sinks and remains flat at the bottom. You found a winner, ready to shine in your next culinary creation. But if the egg stands upright or, worse, floats to the surface, it's time to say goodbye. No egg is worth a stomachache or a food safety disaster. I recall the first time I tried an old egg. Feeling daring, I selected one from my collection, confident it would pass. However, as soon as it hit the water, it floated to the surface much like an ocean buoy. My heart sunk faster than any egg could. Lesson learned. The excitement of exploration can be soon replaced by the reality of rotten eggs. Who knew a small egg could offer such important lessons about trust? Here's an extra tip. Even if the egg passes the water test, let your nose be the ultimate judge. Crack it open and take a smell. If anything smells even slightly off, think terrible fish market on a hot day, don't hesitate to discard it. Your nose recognizes what is safe. The Amish rely on all of their senses, and so should you. Feeling daring? Practice the float test on eggs that are slightly past their prime, but not quite ancient. It's an excellent method to gain confidence before committing to long-term preservation. It's also the perfect excuse to make all of those egg recipes you've been wanting to try. Who doesn't enjoy a delicious frittata or fluffy omelet? If you're testing in front of pals, be prepared for theatrical suspense. They may hold their breath while you split open the egg. In a world where food waste accounts for an astonishing 30% of output, Amish egg preservation practices are more important than ever. If they can make eggs last for years without using contemporary technology, we can undoubtedly adapt some of their methods. This not only saves money, but it also lowers the number of trips to the grocery store, which is great for anyone who is tired of overpriced or hyped items. Food preservation also helps us connect with the past in a meaningful way. Imagine passing down family egg preservation customs, which are far more valuable than scrolling through social media. Let's not forget about the sustainability issue. With rising food prices and increased environmental concerns, developing self-sufficient activities like these is both useful and environmentally friendly. Preserving eggs is more than just a novelty. It is a skill that can be extremely useful in an emergency. Consider power outages or supply chain problems. Knowing how to keep food safe without refrigeration may make you the hero of the potluck, proudly serving a dish made with 10-year-old eggs. Whether you live in a hectic city or a tranquil countryside, taking a break from the fridge to experiment with food preservation could be a game changer. At the very least, you will never worry about running out of fridge space again.